Hi, I'm Sherry Gilbert, your host.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Nicole Brown.
And welcome to the Year of S.H.E podcast. And the topic of today's podcast is Welcome to Atlanta, Dating in the ATL. Let's get into it.
I grew up outside of Atlanta, and I am a woman in her late 30s, and I can definitely speak to the dating scene in Atlanta. It can be a roller coaster when you're trying to find your person, particularly if you're over 35.
So I'm not from Atlanta. I recently moved to Atlanta, but when I moved here, I was actually a fiance. I'm not married and I'm no longer the fiance anymore, but I have yet to start dating in Atlanta.
Why not?
Because they say these people crazy.
Let's get into it.
Actually, I moved to Atlanta because I wasn't going to date. At the time that I moved to Atlanta, had went to a really rough divorce. And so I was like, y'all forgive me. I said, I'm going to move to Atlanta because all the men are gay or they're just not interested in being in a relationship, so I should be safe. I'm just going to move there and raise my daughter. Because living outside of Atlanta, that's what you hear. Like, everybody's on the down low, or it's where you go for that lifestyle. So in my mind, I was safe. But then stop being just a mother wasn't enough anymore. So I had to start trying to step out of my box. I think dating in Atlanta is a unique experience. And a lot of people I know actually date outside of Atlanta because it's challenging. I think it's challenging dating, period, especially if you have that heart of really desiring to be in a mature, healthy relationship. We're in a time now where a lot of women are tired. So it's like, I'm going to do me, you do you. And then you are trying to come back now into that soft era. So, and I think it's kind of crazy because we're all not all, some people are putting on this coat of, I don't need to be in a relationship, I just want to have sex, if we're honest. And so in reality, we were put on earth for relationships, not just like romantic relationships, but relationships with other people. Nobody is going to get through this life without having somebody else in their life. But you all, you're kind of taught and groomed as a girl that's one of the goals in life is to get married, find you a man, get married, and have some kids. So when it doesn't come out as you planned and expected, then it kind of throws you off. But dating in Atlanta is something.
Yes. Well, first of all, let's say this. Just to let y'all know, before y'all decide to move here, we full. Period.
F-U-L-A. Period.
But the ratio of men to women in Atlanta is like 10-1. Ooh. So I feel like the men here feel like that they have their pick. And if you say you're not going to do something or you won't do something, they definitely going to move on and find somebody else that can do it. And so I think it's challenging for women, and because I think Atlanta is the black mecca of, prominent and successful African American. Everybody's successful here. But women in particular, we're so driven, and we are already having, we already have our houses and our life together, and then we meet a man that may or may not have himself together, and we try to make room for that person. But I think the men who are prominent and successful in Atlanta who have themselves together, they're not trying to make room for somebody that doesn't have themselves all the way together. They're expecting you to be come with everything already laid out. And I think that's where the issue comes in as far as being evenly yoked in Atlanta. It's very hard.
This is that what do you bring to the table conversation that always comes up. And even if people don't really know what they want you to bring to the table, what you tell them you bring to the table has to be something that stands out for them. It has to be something that they can build on or that they can get something from. If we go back to relationships, if you talk to people that have been together for years, they went through a lot. It wasn't all peaches and cream.
So true.
They had to forgive a lot. They had to talk a lot. They had to communicate a lot. They had to heal a lot. And I don't know that that's what people are willing to do now. Like Sherry said, we're in Atlanta where people know that men know that there are a lot of women here that are looking for that particular relationship, so they don't have to put up with your attitude, or they call us alpha females or whatever. If you're not in that particular situation, there are not a lot of people in general that are willing to work through that. So finding that person that's willing to let you be you authentically is kind of challenging at times because nobody wants pushback.
I would want to chime in on that. I think that if we're on our phones a lot, we are on social media a lot, the conversation of what you bring to the table comes up constantly. Correlating that, just making a connection with Atlanta. Atlanta is the black mecca, so when you live in Atlanta, you are expected to have this status. Everybody's supposed to have this car. You're supposed to live in this house or this condo. You're supposed to be a part of this organization. You should work here. So the thought process of what you bring to the table is brought up constantly because of where we live. You live in Atlanta, you're supposed to be black and successful. Mm-hmm. There is no alternative to that. But in actuality, a lot of people do not live the life that they say they do. A lot of people move to Atlanta to get away from where they come from. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to, as they say, stunt in Atlanta, Georgia. Because a lot of the things here are obtainable. You might not be able to do that where you're from because the opportunities do not come up. But here in Atlanta, the playing field is a little bit, it's a lot more level than other areas. You can get certain jobs that you would not be able to get up north or out west. You can do that here. So the stunning, it comes with it. That when I first moved here 15 years ago, everybody drove a Mercedes. You would go to Perimeter Mall and you have Bentleys parked out. I knew from jump, you could look at the tag and say, okay, that's rented. But it was just this thing where everybody wanted to be somebody. And so that's where the what do you bring to the table conversation comes in. It's not necessarily realistic. When people speak of what do you bring to the table, they're talking about materialistic things instead of where are you emotionally?
Yes.
Where are you mentally? Mm-hmm. You can have all those things and then be a manic depressed, depressed person in the background. Like that's something we would have to deal with. So when we have that conversation, I think social media plays a huge part in it because there are so many different avenues that are taken, and that people watch all these things and all these comments, and it really affects people and how they perceive a relationship and what they think it should be.
And I think what you're saying is one reason why right now I'm choosing not to date because of the facade of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Like you said, what you bring to the table. Get to know me first before you know. Like you said, you're only asking for the physical and the financial aspect of it instead of getting to know somebody on a personal level.
Absolutely.
Like you said, you could be crazy.
Yes.
But I got a Mercedes back there, so you're going to like me because of what I'm bringing to the table. You're going to like me because of that Mercedes. And that what you bring to the table is the facade of Atlanta. So until God say move, Nika ain't gonna know it. That's right. But just didn't think about, I'm finna make y'all laugh. The S.H.E girl,
Yes.
I worked with her at State Troopers headquarters. When I first moved to Atlanta, that was my first job. I worked with State Troopers. She was the admin to the captain at the State Troopers headquarters. One of my co-workers called me and she said, do you remember such and such? And I was like, yeah. She said, girl, she got a whole YouTube thing. Not YouTube, but TikTok thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is a reason why you don't date in Atlanta.
Yeah. It made your case, huh?
Let me tell you, I have some stories that are made S.H.E stories.
I've heard it so many times. That's what a lot of people say.
I've been living in Atlanta since 2007. First of all, I want to protect my Atlanta men. I just want y'all to know that all Atlanta men are not dogs, and there are a lot of transplants here, and a lot of the men that you meet here in Atlanta are not from Atlanta.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make that clear. Second of all, I want you to know that the women here in Atlanta, they've been put on the back burner for let's say it's a lot of diddying. Use that word going on.
No diddy.
Here in Atlanta. no diddy, no doubt. Okay, that part. But I really want you to know that I'm gonna just tell you a story about one of the people that I dated, because the men here in Atlanta are not even taking you out on dates anymore. There's no dates. This Netflix and chill era has been taken over, and I remember trying to go on a date with someone in Atlanta. The first thing they told me was, I'm taking you out to dinner. If you want to meet me, we need to meet at a public place, like a Starbucks or a park, or but you haven't did anything to earn the fact that I need to take you to dinner. You haven't done anything to earn for me to take you to dinner. You need to we need to go out on a couple random meetups first, then I'll decide whether or not you're worthy of a date.
Ugh. But I haven't experienced that.
So I've experienced that several times, and I also experienced where a guy was upset with me because I would not go to his house.
Now that, yes.
And he was so upset with me, and I was really taken aback because it was an older gentleman. So I thought that he would be more mature, more settled, and he ended up getting upset with me. First of all, he was mad because I wouldn't go to his house. I wouldn't invite him to my house. And then he wanted to meet my son. Now at this time, my son is 31 years old now, but at that time my son was probably about in the 11th grade. He's getting ready to graduate. And I told him, I said, my son is older. He's actually getting ready to leave home. There's no need for you to meet him. And we're not at the point where you're solidified in my life where you're going to meet my son. I said, first of all, my son's father is not a staple in his life, and I'm not going to bring any other man in his life unless I know you're here for the long haul. So you're not going to meet my son. So he got upset with me, and next thing I know, a couple days later, I'm at home and people are calling me. Some guys keep calling me. I'm like, where are these people coming from that keep calling me? Apparently, he wrote my name in the bathroom at a club. Wow. And people were just randomly calling me saying, may I speak to Sherry? And I'm like, this is Sherry. Who is this? It's like, this is Jim. So I got your number at the bathroom at a club, and they said I definitely call you for a good time. Ooh. And one particular person called me, and I could hear the guy in the background laughing, and literally he was on the phone telling me that, yeah, I'm here with this guy, and he's saying that if I want a good time, that you definitely the person to call.
All because you wouldn't let him meet your
All
son?
because I would not let him go. He could not go to my home. I would not go to his house.
Boundaries.
And he could not meet my son.
Boundaries.
Wow. And he was well over 50 years old.
Oh, wow.
But we can't attribute maturity to age.
Definitely.
Absolutely. You may think because he was older, okay, he's been through some things, he experienced some things, and so, but we don't attribute it to that. Yeah. But in my experience, I had a similar experience with that. This is a guy that doesn't live in Atlanta. I mean, he's not from here, but he moved here. The first time he reconnected with me, he called me intoxicated. And he sent me a text first, WYD. Well, I don't answer WYD texts. And so he called. I didn't answer because I was on the phone with my mom. He called again. I was off the phone. I answered. The first thing out of his mouth is, why you not picking up my phone calls? Okay, we're going to have to take a step back. Really take a step back. I think the hard part about dating in Atlanta is I do agree with Tanya. This Atlanta is a place where gay men can come and just be comfortable and be in their own skin. I also agree with the ladies who said, it's a scene where everybody's stunting, or a lot of people tend to stunt. I've got this, I got that. It's a facade. But I think for me, what I had to do is just take a step back stop dating for a while and just work on me. And then once I got to the place where I know who I am, I know what I know my value, I know what I want, it's so easy for me to say, you know, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do it. Like Sherry said, this person sent me their address. I'm not coming to your house. I know of you, but I don't know of you. And so like Nicole said, setting those boundaries. So I think women would have better dating experiences. And I do believe that they're good men. I've never said, even after everything I've been through with a abusive marriage and a manipulative relationship after that where the guy was using me, I've come through all of that and arrived to the woman that I am today. But the thing that I learned along that journey is we as women have to do a better job. If we are interested in dating, we've got to do a better job of vetting these men that we talk to, asking questions. And I'm not saying that you do the 21 question thing like they do, like you in a police station, they're asking you doing the Q&A. But just getting to know that person through conversation, practicing active listening, you know, knowing what your core values are, what your deal breakers are. Because one of my deal breakers is smoking. You may be cute and fine, but if you smoke, that's a deal breaker for me. We may even be having an intellectual conversation, but if you're a smoker, that's a deal breaker for me, and I'm not crossing back over that line. So I think a lot of it starts with us. And I think sometimes we get in a situation where that loneliness can be, when you get lonely, loneliness can be dangerous because then you get desperate. Loneliness can lead to desperation, and you will accept anyone, anybody, because I just don't want to be lonely. So I think it really starts, if we're going to have better dating experiences, in my opinion, it starts with us.
What you're saying about the WYD text. First of all, I do not answer to "Hey beautiful" and those types of texts. That women, let me tell you, that is a way that men text multiple females.
Yes.
And they don't have to remember your name. They may not remember how they met you or where they met you. But they texting 10, 20 women, "Hey beautiful." And when they see you, guess what they say? "Hey beautiful," because they can't remember who you are.
Exactly.
So I don't answer those "Hey beautiful" texts because I know they're sent to multiple people. You're not gonna "Hey beautiful" me to death, or "Good morning sweetheart," the "Good morning sweetheart" text.
No.
But I want to get on too about just the atmosphere of Atlanta. Now I have one of my coworkers did ask me to go to lunch. He's an older guy. And I was like, you know what, girl, just go to lunch. If you get you a free lunch, just go to lunch. So I went to lunch with him, and like you said about vetting the person, I heard everything that I did not want to hear. I like to go to the strip club. Baby, you talking to the wrong one because we going to church. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say anything that did anything for me. He came, his representative was very, he showed himself. And I was sitting there listening to him, eating my sandwich. Yeah, you ain't taking me out to lunch no more, Mr. Strip Club. And that's how, in my head, when I see him at work, it's the strip club. Gotcha. Hey, how you doing, strip club? But it's like, I'm going to be my true self. And I'm glad that he was his true self. Like I said, I'm just coming out of a relationship. It does get lonely. The simple fact that he came in and was like, "Miss Val, let me take you to lunch." I'm like, shoot, yeah. No. No. But I love that you said that, getting to actually vet the person. Don't just go off of feelings and loneliness and emotions. It's like right now at this point, all my kids are grown. When I'm dating for marriage. Right now, I'm not dating just to have fun and to go somewhere, because I can take myself wherever I want to go. But it's serious for me right now. And so if I have to date outside Atlanta, I just have to date outside Atlanta, because the spirit that hovers over Atlanta is not mixing with my spirit.
Ooh, wow, that's
good. That's definitely.
So one of my closest best friends is a male in Atlanta, and we have these conversations all the time. And I talk to him, and he shares his stories of his dates with women. And so for him, he had an experience where he was, committed in his relationship, and it went another way. So like we were discussing earlier, some men don't come back from that, or they're like, this is never gonna happen to me again. And so when we have our discussions, I'm like, these women go for this stuff, and he'll literally tell them, I'm broke, I don't have any money, and I'm trying to get my life together. I live on in my sister's house, and I'm sleeping on a mattress, blah, blah, blah. He was like, because when I tell them my real story, they don't want to hear it. And he talks about how him and some of his friends have had those same instances where this guy is like a president of a company, and when he tell women that, it's always like, oh, so what you gonna buy me, and where you gonna take me to eat, and this and that. So I think having those conversations with people really does help, because sometimes it's not so much that they're a bad person, but they've had bad experiences and they're hurt too.
Yeah.
But I also had a conversation, and the question was what we're talking about now: why is it so hard to date in Atlanta? And a lady spoke up and said, those of us that are trying to be in healthy relationships, we're all in the house.
Yes.
Whether it's a man or a woman, we're going to work, we're going to the gym, we're going to the grocery store, go to church. You know, you got to find us in one of those places, because we're not out every weekend at the club. We're not going to all the parties and all the red carpets, because those people are tired as well. So I don't believe that all men are bad. I've experienced some good men, it just didn't work out. But I do believe it is hard to date at this time in its stage of life, because I don't think it's just Atlanta either, but we're in Atlanta. So Nicole made the statement, people are stunting. When I got here, it's like, everybody drives a Maserati, everybody drives a Bentley, and then you start realizing these cars are rented. You know what I'm saying? You could be out with your person in a grocery store. If you go to the other aisle to get bread, somebody's gonna come and shoot their shot, and they could have saw you with that other person. So it is challenging, because you're wondering, like, is everybody this way? And then at some point you're like, oh, it's so peaceful at my house, I love it here. And then you go out there and it's like, okay, I'm going back home.
I can speak to that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but you know, in the state that I am right now, I understand what you're saying, but I also agree that, you know, my thing is you got to be open-minded. Just keep an open mind. If you know exactly what you want, what you're looking for, like I said, your core values, your deal breakers, what you want in a partner, you still got to be open-minded and get out there. I know one of my closest friends, she was married. That marriage broke up over a reason that we were just like, what just happened here? And so she's had dating experiences that didn't work out. One of them was with a guy, nice guy, but he was having issues with his child's mother. So that situation. And then she had another guy that wasn't even living in the Atlanta area, would come to the Atlanta area and could be here for like a day or two, wouldn't even call and say, hey, I'm in Atlanta, can you come meet me for lunch? So that was disappointing. But I'm trying to encourage her, you still got to put yourself out there. And when I'm talking about vetting, I'm talking about having conversations. I'm talking about, I think we talked about this earlier, just really, ladies, taking your time and living in that moment. Not say, oh, he's this, he's that, and that's my husband. You don't know that.
No.
Because a lot of times people are going to give you their representative and not the real. Because you're trying to put their best foot forward because they're trying to win you over. But you know, you have so many things that are within your control that you got to be like, okay, so let's see down the road, 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, if we are still getting to know each other, does his words align with his actions? And that's a telltale sign. So I think sometimes, you know, some of us, we want to be in a relationship, and let's just face it, and Sherry may know this too, one of our universal needs is a sense of belonging. We all want to love, be loved, and be respected by our community. And be valued for being our authentic selves. I know we talked about that another time. So, and some people are afraid to be their authentic self because they are afraid that if I show really who I am, this person is not going to want me. So I'm going to keep living or keep moving in the direction that I'm moving in. And then so that she falls for me. And we know, well, I don't know about you guys, but once I fall hard.
Exactly.
So I really had to do some work to step back and do a better job of just taking my time, living in the moment, experiencing things, and really getting to know someone before I say, okay, I can open up my heart even more to this person. So it just goes back to really just doing the work for yourself. So my dating experiences, I've had some here and there in Atlanta, but I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the guys I meet are not from Atlanta, and most of the guys that I have an attraction to and attract to me, they're from the north. I don't ask me what it is because I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know what it is. And I heard that, a lot of times northern women like a southern man because they want that southern gentleman. So I don't know about you ladies. I'm a southern girl and I tend to like guys from the north and they tend to like me. So I don't know what that is, but that's been my experience so far.
Yeah.
Well, I've dated several guys from the north, and I find that sometimes they're more straightforward with you about what they want and what they're looking for. As you talk about those boundaries and different things you should have, and just living in the moment, being mindful of what you want, I think it's important to know that a lot of people, men and women, aren't ready to receive love or ready to receive a mate because they're holding on to an ex or a past mate, or they're holding on to this person and that person. They say they're ready for a relationship, but they're still holding on to somebody, their sneaky link or whoever they're seeing on the side. And they're trying to keep both of y'all and juggle both of y'all at the same time. And so they're not ready to receive the kind of love that you're giving because they're holding on to something else. And I think it's important to really know who you are, because if you don't even know what you bring to the table, how are you going to explain to somebody else? Well, how are you going to show somebody else what you bring to their table?
Absolutely.
If you don't know what you bring to your own table, what values do you have to offer? And a lot of people don't know who they are. And a lot of people look for relationships as a way to find happiness, but you should already be happy and whole. I don't come to me a half a person and don't, and unhealed, and then try to come in this relationship and think that we're going to thrive, because it just doesn't happen that way. You come into a relationship, you're supposed to be a whole person. There's no 50-50. You're 100% person who is healed and has worked on themselves and knows what you bring to the table and also know what that person brings to the table. And so I think it's important to know that if you're going to get in a relationship, you got to find yourself first before you seek out what you're looking for, because you're gonna ignore those red flags. You're gonna meet people who are not evenly yoked with you. You're gonna meet people who are not gonna know your value because you don't know your own value. So you're gonna meet people who are gonna play in your face and not gonna treat you the way you want to be treated, because you have allowed those type of people in your space and you don't really know your value.
Yeah. Dr. Brown knows his story. I'm not going to go too deep with it. But anyway, long and short of it is having those conversations. He said some things to me that did not gel with my spirit, but I was glad. What if I had rushed into the situation or even gotten intimate, which I didn't. But I'm saying, long story short, you need to have those tough conversations, because by the time that conversation was over, I saw a whole nother different man. The mask was off. So those are my 2 cents.
The give and receive love really stands out for me. So since my daughter has been able to talk, that is a part of our morning prayer as a rule, not just in romantic relationships, but in life. Some people don't know how to give and receive love. And so that is part of our prayer, Lord, help us to give love and to receive it, because some of us are willing to give, but we don't know how to receive it, and vice versa. So I think that just accepting the fact that we're all raised differently. The friend that I was speaking of early, he was raised up north, so his way of seeing things and what his parents taught him and what mine taught me are different. And he's like, you gotta be more like me. I was like, I can't do it. I don't have the energy. I don't have the stomach. I can't do it. And he was like, well, I just don't want you to keep getting your heart broken. It's okay. A friend of mine told me, she said, I was going through a breakup and I thought that was it. And she said to me, now you know what you don't want and what you want. What you want to put up with and what you don't want to put up with. And that really stuck with me, because it's like, yes, the hardest part is breaking up with the reality, because you're stuck on this fantasy thing. Right. So you're like, oh, we were supposed to get married, or oh, we were supposed to do this. Oh, he was such a gentleman, and oh, he had everything on my list. But then you learn that list sometimes is trash. Sometimes the things on your list are not as important, and as you get older, you start to realize that write a list, put it in your Bible. Write a list, put it in your Bible. And I will say, no disrespect to my ex-husband, but everything that was on that list, he had.
Yeah.
But he also had some other things that we just didn't gel together, so it didn't work. We created a beautiful daughter, but that list, he taught me that list was trash. Because even though he had some good qualities,
Yes.
some things that in our lives just didn't go well together.
Yeah.
And we were better as friends than in a relationship. But I think sometimes, even as women and men, sometimes our expectations are not our own. Sometimes we're going by what social media says you should be looking at, or what your mom or your grandma or your aunt or your friend said you should be looking for. And then you get it and it's like, oh no, that's not it. You know what I mean? Growing up, it was like, oh, you want a light-skinned, light-eyed, da-da-da-da. Or as I got older, I was like, well, I don't really like light-skinned that much. Give me a tall chocolate. You know what I'm saying? But growing up, you hearing that. Your friend's like, he's light-skinned with gray eyes, and and then you're looking for that, and then you get them, and I didn't have the best experience with that. And it's not about the color of the eyes and the color of the skin, but it's about realizing sometimes you're living out somebody else's expectations. It's not even what you want.
That is so true.
I want to piggyback off what Tanya said about the love part. So in my journey to healing and personal growth, I've known the scripture's been in the Bible for years, but it just never really resonated with me until I started this little journey. And that's, to me, in my opinion, the blueprint for love is found at 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. So when you're talking about giving and receiving love, that's the kind of love I want to give to someone and want to receive from someone. That we are both patient and kind and long-suffering. We're looking out for each other's interests, not our own selfish interests. We don't keep account of the injurious things that we did to each other. You know, the D word, divorce, never comes up in our conversation. You know, we're not trying to say things to hurt each other, but we are a bond of union, and we're trying to make this relationship work. Because another thing you said, Tanya, is Instagram. Instagram, social media can be a false representation of relationships if you're not careful. Because like I heard somebody say, people want the 50 years. Oh, we've been together 50 years, but they don't want to do the work to get there. Because as soon as it gets hard, because you know, when you first get married, get in a relationship, all these feel-good hormones are just going off. And you know, he's the cutest thing and she's the cutest thing, and then life starts to happen. And then that reality starts to settle in. And so that's why I think it's important for men and women, focus on being that person's friend first. Because that romantic flame is going to flicker from time to time. But if you got a good friendship and you really know each other, you all can figure out a way to ignite that flame again. But like I was saying, you know, that love, that scripture, 1 Corinthians, that's the blueprint for me and what I want in my life and what I'm going to give to my partner.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And to just piggyback off of that, first of all, that's one of my favorite scriptures. I have it inscribed on my ring. Like it's so important, and it goes not just for romantic relationships, but family, friends. It's just love, right? You want to have that agape.
Yes.
But another thing that you said that resonated, and I used to tell my friends all the time, you have to be friends with the person that you are potentially dating at the time because of that very reason. Life happens. Money comes and goes. Passion comes and goes. You liking that person might come and go, you know, but if you're friends, you are more tolerant to the things that you don't necessarily like, and they're more tolerant to you because there are things that they don't like about you as well, right? But we're all on a journey in life, period. We change every few years. We're changing. You meet somebody in your 20s, by the time you turn 29, 30, you are not the same person.
No.
And when it comes to dating, what I've seen with just friends and family, men and women, is that as you get older, you have changed, you're settled, you do it this way. And you've been around family members and they're married and they do it this way. And so you have in your mind what a relationship should be. And when you're meeting someone else and they don't fit that mold, you automatically just discard them. They are, nope. They said they're not going to do such and such, so they're out of here. Instead of being able to have the mind frame of, as you said, being open-minded and being like, okay, well, I'll compromise with this person. Now, I'm not saying you compromise anything that may put you in a position that will compromise how you see yourself or bring you, I can't think of the word right now, but just, your beliefs. That's what.
Okay.
And So unless they're asking you to do something like that, absolutely not. No. But if it's something that you could possibly compromise, that's okay. You can compromise because the end goal is to find a companion. I do think that with women, as girls, like I can remember in middle school, leaving school, going to the library, the first thing I would do would go, I like fashion too, but I would go and get the Brides magazine. And I would look at wedding dresses, and I would pick my bridesmaids dresses and what color they were going to be. And I'm like, as an adult, I'm like, why was I doing that? But it's like, since a little girl, you've been told to have dolls, and you dress your Barbies, and then you play house, and then it's because you're going to nurture a baby, right? And then you're going to be a wife, and you're going to cook, and you're going to clean, and you're going to do all these things. And as you grow older, when women don't find that partner, you lean on your family members, you lean on your girlfriends. We go to brunch, we do this, we do that, and then you find out I don't necessarily have to have that male companionship, because in actuality we just need companionship. It doesn't necessarily have to be the romance. However, there's a part of us that wants the romance.
Well, I want to. We need that romance.
I know there's some people who don't though.
We were created, like you said, we were created women, therefore we waited on our spouse. But I see what you're saying. But for me, no, he had to.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that. Yeah. So I guess I'm saying, I'm not gonna say you don't need the romance. Some women have had the romance and they are okay with not having the romance because they've been there, done that. They're in a different, state in their life. Right, so there may not be, as you said, you're not in a rush because you've been there, done that, right?
I'm ready.
But yeah, well, she's ready. She's ready. Which is good. I'm glad you're ready. But if you're not ready, you're good. But if you're ready, you should go out there.
You know what? I'm gonna make y'all laugh. Yesterday, my youngest daughter, she came in my right work yesterday morning. So I was like, sure, I ain't doing nothing. Go home, eat this pizza, get in the bed. Cupcake came in my room. She's like, I'm gonna go to the mall. You wanna go? I said, yeah, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna go. I went around that bed and got right back in. She said, Mom, you going? I said, girl, just go. But it's like, one, in my mind, I don't want to sit in this traffic. Where you go? How many stores you gonna go to? But I know, because you said this earlier. We sitting in the house. We sitting here saying, "Oh, I want to be a relationship," but won't get out of the house.
It's hard, I'm sure.
So your words got to align with your actions.
Yes.
And so I just encourage you guys to get out the house. And like I told you earlier when we had a conversation over there, I'm an ambivert. So I'm extrovert and introvert on some things. So that makes me an ambivert. But I just get out just to go. I met an amazing gentleman last year at the Sundress and Seersucker Mega event. And when you think about, that's an event where everybody dresses up a little bit more. Sometimes even with the kids, and when I worked in high school, when you see the kids at the prom, when they dress up, they act a little better. But so events like that are going to attract a certain type of crowd. And so you want to think about if you've been going to certain places and you've been striking a wall, you got to change your thinking. And I'm not saying be intentional. I'm going to go to the museum to meet somebody, but I'm just going to get out and explore and do different things and just get out the house. Because like I was telling one of my girlfriends, God may not drop the man at your doorstep. She said, well, she might. Oh, okay, well, you take a chance on that. But you're really going to have to get out and be open-minded about it.
Not only that, but dressing the part. A lot of women walk around Atlanta and they had the bonnets on and these fur slides on, and they're walking around talking about they're looking for their mate. How can you look for your mate? You're not ready to receive your mate. And you're going to attract, however you look, it's what you're going to attract.
That's a certain kind of woman. Can we say that?
Well, the person doesn't know what kind of woman you are when they first meet you, because first impressions are what they are. So they don't know what kind of woman you are. Because I know when I walk out of here sometime, I look like I'm from Cascade Road, where I live at. Not this side, but the other side. I'm just going to say that. So I know that when I'm walking out there and I'm looking like that people are going to think a certain way about me. even though it's probably far from the truth. My husband tell me all the time, you fit right in on Cascade Road. Like, you really fit in some areas, because I may not walk out, but see, I have my mate, so it doesn't matter to me what I look like when I walk out, really. But when you walk out, you got to be ready to receive that person that you want to receive, or attract the type of person that you want to attract. We have these long lists. I hate when people tell me they have these long lists of things that they want in a person and don't want in a person, because sometimes you got to step outside those boundaries. Now, I know we have expectations, and I know we have things that what we call like deal breakers and things that we want and don't want from mates. But I think it's important to know that your mate may not be 6 feet tall, dark and handsome. He may be short and stumpy. He may wear glasses. He may not work out. But you need to be able to step outside your comfort zone. And that's why it's important, like I said, to know the things that you want. But you got to know yourself first, in order to know those things that you want and you don't want out of a relationship. Because we're so used to loving each other in our own love language, we don't know how to love people in their love language. It's important that when you have a mate, that mate, you make sure that mate is going to love you throughout every piece of your journey. They're not going to only love you when you skinny and when you're young, 20 years old, but they're going to love you through each change of your life. They're going to love you the same. So those are the type of qualities that you want to look for. You want to look for somebody that you know is going to be in it for the long haul, who's going to love you. You know, not for the outside, not for the outside. And I'm agreeing with you in the notion that I know you're going to say that your appearance, if you meet the right person, they're not going to worry about that, right? And that's true, because sometimes that person that you meet that sees you like that, and they still can see the good in you, and still see the beauty in you, those are the kind of people that are going to love you throughout each transformation, through each journey of your life. So step outside those lists and really think about who you are. And then women, we created the year of She for a reason. The year of She is about concentrating on yourself. It's about knowing who you are as a woman. So often women, we walk around and we take care of everyone else and we don't take care of ourselves. We cater to what people tell us. When you're dating, the first thing people ask you is what you want in a mate. Of course, whatever that person tell you is what you're going to present, because you want to be. You're showing up as the person that they want. You're showing up as the person that they say they want. But then what happens down the road is, guess what? You're not really that person. So now, later on down the line, you're going to say, well, I know you took me out for spaghetti that first date, and I said I love spaghetti, but really I don't like spaghetti. I just ate spaghetti because you took me out and you said you like a woman who like Italian, so I just ate that spaghetti. But later on down the line, he's gonna present that spaghetti to you, and you're gonna say I don't want spaghetti. He's gonna be like, hold on, you told me when we were first dating that you love spaghetti. So that changes everything. So I think it's important that we as women, we just focus on who we are, what we want, and you'll be able to attract the kind of mate that you want to attract.
In Atlanta, anywhere?
Atlanta, anywhere.
So it is possible. It is possible. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this conversation, everyone. We're going to continue this conversation. Our next podcast is going to be titled There's a Stranger in My House, Part 2 of Relationships. See you then.